Alice in Wonderland very well may be my favorite fictional world to get lost in. I mean, it pops up absolutely everywhere, even in places we might not expect it to. I mean, it's in games, in comics, and most importantly, in movies. There are so many of these movies, it's actually insane. Just off the top of my head, we've got the 1915 original, the 1951 animated Disney classic, the 1988 Czech surrealist film I've really got to get around to watching, and the topic of today's video, the live-action 2010 Alice in Wonderland movies by director Tim Burton. The first one, at least. Now, this might seem like the quintessential Disney remake, and when you add the absurdly star-studded cast and a combined $1.4 billion box office with over $1 billion with a capital B being off of the first movie alone, and it would certainly track. You'd give it, I don't know, a 50% on Rotten Tomatoes? Say it was a soulless cash grab and move on with your life, right?
Wrong!
These aren't remakes at all. These are sequels to that 1951 animated movie, and so what are so often overlooked for being just another useless, unnecessary remake of a classic are overlooked for what they truly are. Delightful little returns to a land we all love so much. Sequels bursting at the seams with Burton-esque charm and featuring entirely new stories. The first being a darker, grittier version of Wonderland than we've seen, set against a fantasy epic backdrop, and the second being quite literally the best allegory for childhood trauma I've ever seen, Trojan horsed into a time travel flick. It's absolutely wild. We'll talk about the latter at a later date because believe me, there's a lot to unpack there, but for today, let us focus on that first movie. 2010's Alice in Wonderland, or as I like to call it, Burton's Misunderstood Wonderland. So please strap in and get cozy as we uncover this hidden gem. You know, like me, Alice Kingsley has been having nightmares for as long as she can remember, even putting aside her father's seafaring plots when she wakes. Only, while my own nightmares are about my family and friends trying to murder me, hers are about anthropomorphic animals who masquerade around medieval England and talk solely in rhyme. So maybe we aren't that much alike after all. Anyway, over the years, her dad helps her with these nightmares until he dies. There's not much he can do after that. Instead, she's just shipped off to a party she'd rather not attend in a corset she'd much rather not wear. She's a 19-year-old woman in Victorian England, so it's not exactly like she could say no. And according to her mother, it's time that she grew up, conformed to reality like the rest of us, and got to childbearing. I do think it's a little bit odd her mother is so passionately telling her to go have unprotected sex, but you know what? Go off, queen. At this party, we're introduced to quite the cast of characters, and while you may think that this non-Wonderland stuff isn't important, if you keep your eyes peeled, you may just spot a familiar favorite before you know it. First up is Hamish Ascot, named after Lord Ascot who worked with Alice's papa. He shares a name with a type of scarf and has literally the most punchable face I've ever seen in my entire life. Mind you, I'm a pacifist. He asks her to dance and then has the gall to tell her to quiet when she shares with him her wonderful ideas. Uh-oh, a snobbish ginger with little tolerance for Alice's whimsy. I'm sure this'll go just fine. Let's speedrun this next part because there are a lot of introductions to get out of the way. This is Lowell. He's a slime bag who claims to be loyal but then cheats openly. And Imogen here is literally a manifestation of what might happen to Alice if she gets too out of touch with reality. And then there's these two girls who speak oddly in rhymes. After some gentle negotiation, they let her in on a little secret, and it's the worst news possible. Hamish is planning to marry her. When the moment arrives, she freezes. Again, she can't exactly say no to this man, but winding up marrying him would be a fate far worse than death. At that moment, though, she spies a Mr. Monopoly-esque rabbit, and before you know it, we're tumbling down rabbit holes all over again. Since the original is so iconic, of course they have to bring back the greatest hits for the fans. As she's trying to grasp what kind of saw trap she's in, though, we hear the voices of other people watching her. Two boys and a girl. The men wonder what's taking her so long to get out of this room again, and a grating woman's voice insists that
you brought the wrong Alice.
She manages to escape becoming the next David Tapp, and the second she steps out the door, you can tell that this has Burton's name written all over it. It's weird to say that you can tell a movie has Burton's influence on it by looking at the trees, but it is true. Even the costuming and the sound design has that melancholy gothic vibe that Hot Topic built an entire brand to emulate, and yes, it's still every bit as magical here. It's also probably important to point out this movie's CGI because it's certainly not going anywhere. As a general rule, it's not bad. It's at the very least serviceable, with some looking way better than others. There's no better example of this than when Alice meets some of Wonderland's inhabitants. I think that this rocking horsefly looks pretty good, the dodo bird's alright, but this old lady rose, absolutely not. As Alice is soaking in all of these oddities though, she meets this movie's cast, the less interesting half. No offense, Michael Sheen. We've got the Tweedles, that's dim and dumb to you, who look like boiled beets, the White Rabbit, who is as jumpy as he was in the 51 original, and last and certainly least, the Dormouse, Malyumpkin. So, as you'll see, Burton really wanted you to know that this wasn't the Wonderland of yesteryear, okay? And to that end, I guess he thought that giving all of these characters new names was the route to go. All of them, except the Tweedles. They're still just dim and dumb, and nothing more. Heck, even Wonderland is for some reason renamed Underland, which to me sounds like a rejected Underoos theme park, but what do I know? Between the Tweedles' confusion about her not remembering this place, Alice's years of recurring dreams, and the general atmosphere we're getting here, it seems that something isn't quite right. And when you pair that with Burton's style and the uncanny CGI, this is a much darker feeling Wonderland. But where others go overboard by making the characters themselves uncharacteristically evil, this movie retains the original's personality and flavor. This isn't Underland against Alice. This is Alice and Underland against, well, I guess we don't know yet. Luckily, as Malyumpkin insists again that this is not Alice, it turns out there's a surefire way to find out. We just have to pay a visit to our old friend, the Blue Caterpillar. Or Absalom, I guess. Sure. Turns out, he's not a hard guy to find, and though the CGI on him is suspect at best, hearing Alan Rickman's beautiful voice makes everything just a little bit better.
Absalom?
You're not Absalom, I'm Absalom. The question is, who are you?
In his possession is the Oraculum, a scroll of every day that's ever happened and ever will. Right now it's only the boring Register, but soon it'll be Frabjus.
Yeah, Frabjus being the day you slay the Jabberwocky.
And if this little graphic is anything to go by, Alice will have a large part to play in this. Before he leaves though, he makes it official. She is...
Is she the right Alice?
Not hardly.
That's not what I expected. What's expected even less is the murmurings about Jabberwockies and Bandersnatches. Those are such silly nonsense words. There's no Jabberwockies in Wonderland. Those were introduced in the sequel. Now, I don't know what you guys know about your Alice in Wonderland lore, okay? But no matter where you fall on that spectrum, be not afraid because Daddy has got you covered and he's gonna make sure you're well taken care of. That is why I have taken the liberty of constructing this very simple flowchart to illustrate this to you as easily as I possibly can. So, in 1951, we got Alice in Wonderland, the animated Disney movie, which is an obvious adaptation of Lewis Carroll's Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. This movie takes things a step further though and also incorporates elements from that book's sequel, Through the Looking Glass, and what Alice found there. For the animated movie, this includes things like Tweedledee, Tweedledum, the Walrus, and the Carpenter. Right, so that makes sense. But then Alice in Wonderland 2010, the thing you're watching a video on right now, is a direct sequel to that movie that is actually 2 books. However, it takes things a step even further and adapts even more from Through the Looking Glass, the book, not the movie, mainly the Jabberwocky poem. Through the Looking Glass, the movie, not the book, is a direct sequel to Alice in Wonderland, which is a direct sequel to Alice in Wonderland, and takes zero inspiration from either book. Now, the million-dollar question. Why couldn't they have foregone all of this confusion and simply titled this movie Alice's Return to Wonderland, a la The Wizard of Oz 2? Well, to that, my friends, I say the world may never know. But they didn't, and so here we are. Now confused as all of us after that great explanation, Alice resorts to the oldest trick in the book, but because that would be a really anticlimactic ending, she doesn't wake up. And to make things even worse, now the Bandersnatch is here. Wait, the Bandersnatch? Oh, right. That Bandersnatch. And he's not alone. The Red Queen's army sends its regards. I absolutely adore the designs of these playing card guards here. Even when they capture the poor defenseless White Rabbit, they're still just so neat. Anyways, Alice has a great plan to let the snarling giant Bandersnatch kill her so that she'll wake up. Even after the whole pinching idea didn't work out, so that's not great. Malyumkin, of all people, saves her, taking out its eye in the process, which leaves Alice with nothing but a scar, I guess, but also, good lord, what is this movie rated?
I don't even know if that's PG!
Now left alone with just the Tweedles. Left alone completely, Alice stumbles blindly through the forest. It's in these scenes that are less muddied with CGI that the beauty of the other CGI really stands out. Look at these backgrounds. Plus, she's still small from that drink earlier and unarmed. Yeah, suddenly even those roses seem a bit daunting. Around here is when we're introduced to the Red Queen and her perfectly over-the-top castle, complete with a bush shaved to her likeness. She's gone almost a full day without beheading anyone, and as that won't do, she takes this poor frog to the chopping block. She even has this to say in regards to him mentioning his kids.
Go to his house and collect the little ones. I love tadpoles on toast, almost as much as I love caviar.
And I have to say, that's a great way to make us hate a villain. She was already well on her way with that oversized dome of hers, and her voice was near as grating as the Dormouse's, but to have her commit infanticide, yeah, that'll do it. This is also when we get a better look at, and please bear with me here, Elasavic Stain, the Knave of Hearts. Knave being both a term for someone deceitful and the jack in a deck of playing cards. Take one look at this man and I want you to tell me which you think he is. He tells the Queen of Alice's return, and just like that, the chase is on. Meanwhile, Alice meets Cheshire, a great and original nickname for the Cheshire Cat, who is also voiced by the narrator of Pocoyo. Somehow that's actually true. He's not much of a hero, but he's no villain either. In fact, while he can't help her, he takes her to someone that might be able to. Oh my god, what in the long legs is that? You know what, even before we get into Depp's performance, let's give a round of applause to the makeup and costume department, because my god, is that horrifying. It's mad and vibrant. It's the perfect representation of this movie, actually. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. There is something you should probably know about me. I'm biased for Johnny Depp. I'm biased for Johnny Depp on account of I grew up watching a lot of his movies, and so naturally he's one of my favorite actors. What do you know about Pirates of the Caribbean, Sleepy Hollow, Edward Scissorhands? So of course I love him here. There are so many intricacies he adds to his movement, his cadence of speech, and his pauses that make you uncomfortable in just the best of ways. Also, Malyumkin and the March Hare are here, not that you'd care, but I have to say this next bit for my own amusement. The Mad Hatter's name in this movie is Terrence Hightop, and the March Hare's Thackeray Earwicket. His name is Thackeray. It's just the best thing ever. Chess has tagged along, and let's just say there's more than one kind of tea at this party, because out of absolutely nowhere, the Hatter just starts absolutely riffing on our poor boy here.
You're an out on him to save your own skin, you godler Scottish pilgerickering, shookum juggling, slurking your fault.
It's genuinely kind of a terrifying scene, and was that a British accent? I mean, I guess Depp's gonna Depp. Since the Knave is hot on their heels, Alice and Hatter make their getaway, but as they're doing so, he starts reciting that Jabberwock poem from earlier, but when he says it, it's not quite so playful and whimsical, it's more ominous and threatening.
He took his vorpal sword in hand. The vorpal blade went snicker-snack. He left it dead, and with its head, he went galumphing back. It's all about you, you know.
Hey, Tarrant, bud, I think you're scaring her there. She mentions to him that she won't kill the Jabberwocky because she doesn't slay, which is an interesting ploy because it's absolutely not what he wants to hear. Alice, sweetie, you're 6 inches tall in the woods with a rampant madman where you would never be found. Does this really seem like a good idea to you? Remarkably, he doesn't murder her, but with this burn, she might have wished she had died instead.
You were much more muchier. You've lost your muchness.
Seriously, why does such a silly made-up insult actually cut so deep? After much pestering, Hatter confesses why he hates the Red Queen so much, and I swear this is the craziest thing ever. So not only is Terrence's last name Hightop, but his entire clan were hat tailors for the White Queen, who is fair, beautiful, and beloved, basically everything her sister isn't. And so everything was well and good until the Horvendash day, when the Red Queen and her Jabberwocky Murdered his entire family. What is wrong with this movie, man? What, homicide wasn't good enough for you? Infanticide wasn't good enough for you? What about genocide? I swear, only in a Disney movie can a quirky side character's entire backstory just be an actual war crime. Is what I was going to say. Until it all clicked. What did you mean by clan, Tarrant? That's an interesting word choice, isn't it? The Red Queen's Castle is very clearly of English architecture. I played enough Lincoln Logs as a kid to know my stuff, okay? And in England, they're called families. Just what is it that you're trying to hide, Hatter? Could it be that you're secretly an allegory for centuries of English-Scottish conflicts? That's right, I'm onto you. The high top clan, the Scottish accent. I thought it was just a quirky acting choice, but it wasn't, was it? It was an artistic choice, which would mean it certainly isn't a soulless cash grab, right? Rotten Tomatoes. Of course the Hatter hates the Red Queen. The Scots used to hate the English all the time. It makes so much sense, and it leads more credence to the theory that he's a mirror of Alice. He's quite literally in a different world. Unfortunately, the knave comes galumphing back with his little bloodhound with his impeccable timing to appear right when the plot demands it. This time, there is no escape, and so the last of her comrades is taken hostage. Hey guys, it's Brett. Way later in the editing process than I intended, by the way, so this entire thing has been recorded way after the rest of the video is done, but I was editing and I noticed that I didn't explain one little plot thread, and without it, the entire thing unravels, so please give me just a minute to vent about this stupid plot thread that really just irks me to my core. So relatively early on in the movie, we're introduced to this bloodhound named Bayard, and he has like a subplot. Essentially, his gimmick is that the knave has his pups hostage, so he's being forced to hunt for Alice against his will, which is like a noble enough cause, right? So during the tea party, Bayard leads the knave to the Hatter and Alice, but then the Hatter just tells Bayard to leave, and he does. So you think, oh, like he's still trying to help them. But then right after we get the Hatter's backstory, which in universe is like 5 minutes after they've left the tea party, the knave and the dog come back. So I don't know why the dog like left in the first place if we were just gonna come back after him. But then the Hatter's captured. And you would think that would be it, but then no. But then it's not, because then the dog goes to help Alice because he feels bad. And then he leads Alice to the Red Queen's castle so that she can rescue the Hatter. Like, he just keeps flipping sides, and it drives me crazy. Pick a side. So Alice finally meets the Red Queen, okay? She hops over the Queen's moat of these, like, beheaded people that the Queen has executed, which is dark as anything. And then McTwist, which is the name of the White Rabbit, finds her and gives her a cake that makes her grow up. But when she grows, her clothes all break off, so she's left enormous and just naked in the bushes, which is just super charming. But it does lead to my favorite bit in the movie, so that's something. I don't care if it's stupid, it's really funny.
And what is this?
It's a who, Majesty. This is,
From Umbridge.
So then, while she's getting clothed, Bayard goes back from the Red Queen's castle all the way to the White Queen's castle memorial. And this is when we're introduced to Morana, who is the White Queen. And she's the sister of the Red Queen, whose name in this movie is Erasabeth, right? Morana, the White Queen, by the way, is played by Anne Hathaway, who absolutely kills it in this role. Like, she plays up being this innocent, faultless princess, like, caricature so well that I'm not entirely unconvinced she didn't get into some pixie dust or something backstage before filming began. It's perfect. Seriously, why is she doing T-Rex arms the entire runtime? And so Morana is like super fair and kind to everyone, but she embraces this traitor dog. Like, he's the sole reason the Hatter has been captured and Alice is in the Red Queen's castle, which is again enemy territory. But Morana, because she's like a really nice person, forgives him for switching back and forth. But then Bayard's like, oh, I'm sorry I took her to the Red Queen's castle because I was supposed to bring her to the White Queen's castle. So like, he was already planning to betray the Red Queen, but he does that after. None of it makes sense. None of it makes sense. But he's like, Alice convinced me to let her go to the Red Queen's castle instead. And the White Queen's like, oh, that's okay. We had to go there anyways because that's where the Vorpal sword is.
Is exactly where she will find the Vorpal sword. We have our champion.
And it's like, if that's the case, which it is the case, unfortunately, why have the whole scene where Alice, like, is talking about how she's finally going against Destiny, which, like, happened right before that?
I'll decide where it goes from here.
If you diverge from the path,
I make the path.
If Destiny was gonna make her go to the Vorpal sword anyway, I'm tired. I'm tired. So, is embraced by the Red Queen with open arms, which makes her kind of seem like not that bad, but then she amounts so many crimes, it's actually kind of funny. Like, we get animal abuse, fat shaming, and then she verbally, like, tells off the knave when he asks for her name.
Does she have a name? I believe your name has slipped the Queen's mind.
Her name is, idiot!
She does win back some fanfare, though, by employing the Hatter, who is all too happy at the prospect of hatting such an enormous bulb. She even allows to have, like, complete free roam of the castle, so you know what, maybe we judged her too harshly. Alice gets a reunion with the Hatter, who is having some major personality crashes. He says that he's happy to be back at his trade, but when he knocks everything over, I have a hard time believing him. Luckily, Alice is more nurturing than I, and it's a good thing too, because he really needed to hear this.
Have I gone mad?
Afraid so. You're entirely bonkers. But I'll tell you a secret. All the best people are.
Maybe only he should have heard that, actually. To the rest of us, that line was just a wee bit cringe. He tells her that Mick Twisp knows where to find the Vorpal sword, and while she won't put it to use, she figures it's probably safer in the hands of the White Queen, because she surely won't use it to execute anyone, right? Right. There's one teensy problem, though. While it is only in a doghouse, that doghouse just so happens to belong to the Bandersnatch. And remind you, she's 0-1 against that thing, so she's not going in unarmed. As she attempts to retrieve the eye that Maliumpkin snatched from it earlier, though, the knave makes his move, pushing himself onto Alice, and essentially cheating right behind his former lover's back, just like that scoundrel Lowell did earlier. Alice pushes him off, and luckily it just so happens that a member of the Queen's court was watching, and if her reaction is anything to go by, he's screwed. Returning its eye, Alice attempts to befriend the Bandersnatch, but I think it's a little late for that. Not like you can just pop it back in. Oh, okay. I guess you can. Interesting. Because he's such a good boy, he even licks her wound clean and shows her to the key to the Vorpal sword. Just like that, she's well on her way to Memorial. Hatter is still trying to, well, hat the Queen when she hears of what Stain has done, and I thought he was going to be taken to the chopping block immediately, but no. He's able to weasel his way right out of that and points all of it on No! His head! Take his head! Completely oblivious to the danger, Alice rushes to retrieve the Hatter, but he's still bound, and that sword ain't meant for cutting anything but Jabberwockies. As they're coming up with a plan, though, the Weasel bares its ugly head yet again, this time taking on the Hatter directly. Not such a good idea when you're fighting in his element, though, is it, Stain? No weapons, just accessories, and hands. Lots of hands. During this, Alice is playing a game of tug-of-war against one of those card people, and it's not looking so hot, so Maliumpkin, tired of simply being useless, decides to yell out some words of encouragement. Because even the knave isn't so stupid as to not put that together, he finally realizes that this is Alice, and that whole personality was nothing but a lie. Now faced with reinforcements, Alice has no choice but to retreat. Cornered in the courtyard, all hope seems lost until we get a surprise run-in from the Bandersnatch. Aided by a really good boy and Bayard too, I guess, she makes her Memorial, unable to rescue her friends. The Red Queen takes out her anger on Stain, but I'm guessing it's not in the way he wanted her to. But hey, at least they have her conspirators to punish, right? Rotting away in his cell with nothing of value to keep him company, the Hatter is rather relieved to see his old pal/enemy, Chess. Turns out he wants to make a last-second face turn to end up in the Hatter's will. After all, he really does like that hat. Merana tells Alice that with the armor and the blade, her champion is ready to ride in battle. Or at least she would be if she had one. And while trying to get Alice back to her proper size, we get some subtle foreshadowing for this movie's sequel when the White Queen asks about her sister, mostly her head. Now, was this really pre-planned dialogue to set up a movie that wouldn't release for another 6 years, or was it simply inevitable that her sister's large head would come up in the discussion? These are the kinds of questions that keep me up at night. Now to her regular muchness, Alice seeks out Absalom, and it's here that she learns that she's now, officially...
Almost Alice.
Baby steps, y'all. Baby steps. When morning rises, there's only one way to start the day off properly, and that's with a good old-fashioned execution. It never fails to wake me up. Hatter and Dormouse are marched to the chopping block, and the order is given. Hatter assumes the position, but when his precious hat is almost removed, he asks to keep it on, to which the executioner agrees.
I'd like to keep it on.
Suit yourself, as long as I can get at your neck.
Like, sure, he's about to remove his head from the rest of his body, but he's no monster. Nobody can watch as the axe is raised, but me, I never dared to cover my eyes because I thought for sure something was afoot. I've played enough Skyrim to know that executions are oftentimes interrupted. Keeping the hat on was in character. I'll give him that, but last time I checked, the Hatter's eyes don't look like this. And that, he can't do that. I don't think. Turns out, that's not the Hatter at all. In fact, he's right there beside the Queen. This has all been a ruckus, a ruse, a plot, a ploy. Chess has been on his side this whole time, and now it's time for a little bit of revenge. I don't know if you've noticed, the Queen's court seems a little bit fake to you, don't they? Almost like they're compensating for something. And once one layer is removed, the whole thread is unraveled. Turns out they're just a bunch of liars, and the Red Queen, she really hates liars.
Liars! Cheats! Falsifiers! Off with their head!
Now threatening to cut off everyone's head, the Hatter gives an impassioned speech to the entirety of the castle. The time is nigh and rebellion overdue. He leads off on the charge, and having lost the love of her people, she turns to Plan B. There's always a Plan B. This Jub bird absolutely fodderizes the citizens of the castle, and I don't even think they've done anything wrong. This scene is reminding me of that poor woman in Jurassic World who got eaten by the Mosasaurus. Hollywood is cold, man, and so under the veil of chaos, our heroes make their getaway. On their reunion, Alice is so excited to see the Hatter that it's weird to think that this is all just a dream. Something she says verbatim to him, which is in questionable taste. To tell one of these people to their face that soon she'll wake up and they'll cease to exist is kind of cold. The detail that the Hatter isn't even mad about this speaks volumes. He is Alice's one true friend in Wonderland, something that'll come back to bite when 2016 rolls around. The day finally arrives and all step forth, including these white chess pieces that the White Queen has as her army, and I absolutely adore the designs on these, just like the playing cards. Seriously, the designs in this movie are wonderful. I don't have any other word to describe it. All our heroes take turns playing Spartacus, but the Oraculum isn't playing around. Quite frankly, it says if it ain't Alice, it ain't dead. Alice looks on, understanding that if she doesn't do it, all of Wonderland will fall. Marana tells her that she can't always live life according to others. If she's going to do this, it needs to be her choice. This advice would have helped earlier when it was about turning down Hamish, but when the lives of such realistic figments of her imagination are at stake, things aren't quite that simple. By now, he's about to undergo metamorphosis. His line of,
"Come to the end of this life,"
hits all the harder when we know that Alan Rickman would be lost to us just a couple years later. Rest in peace to an absolute legend. Before he moves on though, he drops a sleeper phrase.
"Alice, at last." You were just as dim-witted the first time you were here. You called it Wonderland, as I recall.
Just one mention and literally everything falls into place. This place isn't a dream. It's a memory. And that means that Wonderland is real. So is the Hatter and all of her friends. And if that's the case, if all of this truly is real, then yeah, that Jabberwocky has got to go. The Frobjous Day finally arrives, and on the field of battle, a chessboard naturally, the armies red and white meet at last. Last-minute peace talks by Marana are completely ignored by the Red Queen, and the Jabberwock is summoned to finally see Alice. I also wanted to point out that the Jabberwock is voiced by Christopher Lee, another all-timer of an actor who we lost not long after this movie's release. When the Hatter gives the walkie just the tiniest of pokes, the knave descends upon him and all hell breaks loose. And say, what's that in the Hatter's hand? That wouldn't have to be a claymore, would it? Huh, I wonder where those are from. Checkmate, atheist. Everyone gets in on the action, okay? We get a Fat Boy Tower, Bandersnatch Frenzy, even Maui Yumpkin and Bayard work in tandem as she goes right after the Jub Jub Bird's eyes. The legendary Jub Jub Bird is felled when the card's own catapult shot goes awry, so much for teamwork, eh? Hatter disarms, though luckily not literally the knave, and all eyes are set on Alice. She mounts the Jabberwocky like this is a mechanical bull, and this ain't her first rodeo. With just one Snicker snack, the head goes rolling down, and finally the battle is done. Now the Queen of Underland, Morana sentences Stain and Erasabeth to banishment.
Therefore you are banished to the Outlands. No one is to show you any kindness, or ever speak a word to you.
A punishment I'm sure will be kept up in this movie's sequel. But because Stain didn't get that memo, he tries to kill his former love interest, as can you imagine all of the nagging. But that's thwarted, and all he's managed to do is seriously piss her off. In fact, he begs for death, but while the White Queen isn't a murderer, her words sure are killer.
Majesty, please, kill me, please!
But I do not owe you a kindness.
With so much chaos and destruction, the tension in this movie was getting to be a little bit much. I mean, this movie is PG. We need something for the kids. Mayhaps a Futterfaken? Oh yeah, much better. Now that Underland is freed, Alice is rewarded the blood of the Jabberwocky for her efforts. With just one drink, she'll be transported home. The Hatter begs her to stay in a really heartbreaking scene, but she knows now what she must do. She promises not to forget him because honestly, after this performance by Depp, who could? And that she'll be back one day, a promise she does in fact keep. She says Farfarin to her friends and finally returns to the real world, reborn. After dressing down her doubters, figuratively speaking, luckily, she says what we've all been hoping to hear. She won't be marrying Hamish, and amen for that. In fact, she has plans to work with Papa Ascot in the seafaring business that her dad did before, but she wants to expand even further than her dad ever imagined. And he's all too happy to oblige this, but that's not good enough for Alice. She thinks that there's one more thing she has to do before we can get to this movie's ending, and I do have to warn you to avert your eyes because it is incredibly cringe-inducing. Oh god, no, make it stop, make it stop! So, that's Alice in Wonderland 2010. Pretty special movie, huh? Or at least it is to me. It's cringy, it's pretty bonkers, but above all else, it has heart, and I think that's something that a lot of reviews fail to mention. If you don't like this movie, that's totally fine. If you hate this movie, then more power to you. But when I see reviews like this that say the movie is unoriginal and unimaginative, I just have to disagree. The movie takes so many liberties from the source material. I mean, it recharacterizes so many of Lewis Carroll's originals. It introduces entirely new backstories. It changes themes and settings, and it repictures all of Wonderland's happening as a sort of allegory for a woman's struggle against conforming to the natural world in a realm where things are a little bit more black and white. I truly don't know how much more inventive this movie could have been. Is Underland real? Is all of this the chaotic musings of a chaotic mind? Who is to say? But maybe, just maybe, we'll get some answers when we roll around to this movie's sequel. Guys, that's all I have for you today. I know it's monstrous to end right when things are getting interesting, but I really do, from the bottom of my heart, hope you've enjoyed, because I know that I have. Thank you guys so much for sticking around with me today, and I certainly hope to see you in the next one, but even if not, I hope you have an excellent rest of your night and a better tomorrow. Fair farin, my friends. Fair farin.